have you ever felt like no matter what you work on, sometimes you feel like there's an abundance block? Always, sometimes it feels like things are out of reach. I want to welcome you to the Unbound and Awakened podcast. I'm your host, Poonam Premnath, and I'm really excited to have you today. And joining me in this wonderful conversation is Chloee Teng. She's an intuitive healer, mentor, creator of the Abundance Truths movement. Chloe helps women clear energetic blocks, unlock abundance, and thrive in their businesses and their lives. She uses tools like color healing, sacred geometry, frequencies, and spiritual psychology coaching. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Chloe during our study together at the spiritual psychology school. She actually became my mentor and she really helped me a lot in my coaching journey. Her guidance really helped me step into my purpose with a lot more confidence. Today, Chloe and I, we're actually going to dive into her transformative work. We're going to discuss how practices like I Ching, sacred geometry, along with things like color healing, that can really help entrepreneurs break free from their financial abundance blocks, allowing them to truly thrive. So before we dive in, I just want to take a quick moment to do a spiritual mind treatment and make this conversation unfold the way it's meant to be, recognizing the presence of the divine intelligence that is flowing through within our respective relative expression here, and allow everything to come through with ease and clarity, opening pathways of beautiful insights and abundance and transformation for everyone listening to this conversation. I invite the highest good and guide to inspire us today. So I'm really honored to have you, Chloe. How does it feel to be here today?
I am so excited to be here and thank you so much for having me. It's my honor to be here.
That's awesome, Chloe. So, no, I would love to, I'm really happy and honored that you're here too. Uh, let's move into one of the questions that I'm really excited to touch on is if you want to share your journey in terms of color healing, inching, what drew you to these types of practices initially?
It was around 9 years ago. At the time, I felt an emptiness. On the books, I had everything I ever wanted. I was working at the head office of a great corporation at a company that I absolutely loved. I had married to a great husband. We had just purchased our dream house together. And I felt something was missing still. And I felt like my soul was searching for something, but I wasn't sure what. And then during that same year, I traveled back home to my home country, Taiwan. And that's when everything changed for me. So it was on a tour bus when my mother and I were on our way to visit a temple in the middle of a mountain. And that rather empty bus, the two ladies who happened to sit beside us, they were talking about this magical art coloring book. And I couldn't help but lean in. And that one conversation has led me to their master teacher, and that introduction has changed everything. So I began working with secret geometric books like this. And I have one book for deep energetic clearing and one book for manifestation. After a while, I put them away. But years later, when during one of my moves, when I came across the manifestation book, I saw that 8 out of 9 wishes or intentions had already manifested. And that's when this work really got my attention. And the one intention or wish that didn't manifest was I wished everyone around me was mentally, emotionally, spiritually healthy. But that's a wish that's probably shouldn't being approved because everybody's working through something and there's always room for growth. So that's the only one that didn't come to manifest. meditation. So a few years after that, not long after I pivoted my career from HR in the corporate company to coaching, during one meditation, I received the guidance that I was to do healing paintings. And I thought to myself, wait, I don't know how to paint. I was never a good artist, but then I was still keeping myself open-minded. And within a few days, when I was accompanying my husband to an eye appointment in a medical building, while we were waiting for the appointment at the foyer, I was drawn towards this huge, beautiful painting, and I was so drawn to it. I wanted to learn about the artist's name and the name of the art. And then I look at the name of the art. It says the name was A Painting with Healing Intent. And that was my confirmation. So I look at the artist online, and then I found that she was teaching some classes, but the time didn't work for my schedule. So I was still wondering, okay, if I got this confirmation that I was to do something about healing, about painting with healing intent, what is it? And within a couple months, the master teacher in Taiwan reached out to me and said she had decided to certify people to bring her work into the world. And I knew this was it, and I immediately said yes.
That's
Sorry.
no, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think the way you laid it out, it sounds like divine synchronicity, where everything just kept playing out in a natural sequence. And what struck me about how you were navigating your story is you never questioned it. You always surrendered and you moved forward in faith, which is very inspiring for someone to hear, because usually people get stuck in doubt and they don't move forward. And that's how they're blocking the abundance coming their way. And I'm speaking to some of this also because I also have my book, Blooming Where You're Planted. I have actually a section dedicated to sacred geometry, but I never looked at it from a point of view of unblocking abundance. I came from a point of view of expanding your consciousness. So, but this is very refreshing to hear your take on sacred geometry. So I'm really excited to move into our next question, actually. So I know that because most of it is related to abundance blocks. So what are some of and the community that you serve are basically entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
So through the process that you do, how do you work with them? How do you help them when they come across these blocks?
In my opinion, all limiting beliefs are money blocks. So they are not just mindset issues. They live in the body, the nervous system, and deep in the subconscious. And when entrepreneurs, they come to me, wanting to break through abundance blocks, what we do together really is I guide them on this soul clearing journey to the original imprint. So help them see the root of their blocks, clear them, and so that they can show up for their business and life.
Thank you. And is there do you have any breakthrough story or something that you can share to help people understand how you did that with somebody?
Yes. So for example, one of my clients, she came in and then she was like, I'm feeling really blocked to show up online. And then, so what I did was, how this process works is during the session, I use the sacred I Ching to reveal the emotional root and belief behind that stuckness. So this is where this I Ching becomes a sacred mirror. It reveals the subconscious limiting beliefs that's behind their block. And this one client who felt deeply stuck in showing up online, the I Ching showed her a root fear of being too visible, traced back to a traumatic childhood experience. And once we cleared the emotional imprint, and anchor her back to her truth, she went live on Instagram the very next day for 45 minutes. And it's something she never thought she could do or even possible. And abundance also flowed immediately in ways she described as magical.
Yeah, thank you. That's such a beautiful transformation story that you shared. And these are everyday blocks that people face, not knowing it's the fears that's holding them back. How do you trace that fear from what memory? What's the root? And I think you always need some type of a professional guidance to help you through that. It's difficult to do this on your own. And I'm so happy that you have dedicated your work to serving others in this such a beautiful way. And I know you also mentioned that you work with color. You showed us a copy of that earlier in the conversation, and the interplay of color, sacred geometry, that's very unique. And I know color can be very relaxing to a lot of people. And how does healing come into play? How does abundance come into play? How does that process work when you try to rewire somebody's relationship with their fears or their subconscious?
Yes, so I assign my clients sometimes during the session for I do host monthly workshops. So during the session, we would color together. So after that I Ching exercise, we would color together using specific colors on the sacred geometric art. And then, so through this process, it's really about releasing the emotional charges within. So this book is not just sacred geometry. It's not just that sacred geometry art. It weaves together sacred geometry, ancient Chinese 5 element wisdom, neural pathway rewiring, and family sequence systems. So the work itself is really about inner transformation, processing past traumas, neutralizing emotional charges, and reprogramming limiting beliefs from the root. And as clients color with intention while holding awareness of their past experiences, they begin to neutralize the emotional intensity of these old wounds. And this creates space for truth, safety, and self-worth to rewire into the subconscious. And as their inner world recalibrates, their relationship with money and life begins to shift naturally. And it's not about forcing results. It's really about returning to resonance.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that internal alignment that you mentioned, because I also host workshops where I help people through inner alignment. But again, I use different modalities, and one of the reasons why I was excited was because what you do is so unique, and I feel like people, should be exposed to all the different things that's out there and see what resonates for them. And even though you go through some of the alignment process, sometimes there are still fears that show up. There's fears of uncertainty. And especially for an entrepreneur, that's like the biggest fear that they have to constantly navigate throughout their entrepreneurial journey. Several unexpected business challenges come, and that's what blocks them from going to the next level, right? And how does these exercises help entrepreneurs so they can stay in flow, year over year over year, and continue to stay in alignment with consistency?
Yes, when things feel uncertain, as humans, it's so easy to spiral into fear, control, or hustle. And sacred geometry helps you come back to your center. So it reminds you that alignment is internal. So the shapes carry frequencies that remind us, like the nervous system, that you are whole, you are safe, you are connected. So when you are in the state, you don't need to chase opportunities, like trust that opportunities find you. You become that magnet, not because you're hustling more, but because you are in resonance.
That's good, because it's that push and pull that we experience, and when you're in the space where you're serving people, we get into sometimes the ego consciousness, sometimes the higher consciousness. And I think that's what you're touching on with some of these shapes through sacred geometry. And grounding yourself is a very important practice that, you know, one should incorporate so that way they know how to, you know, bring themselves back up when and something unexpected were to happen. So if someone was new to sacred geometry, right? What is the simplest way they can start to use it in their daily life to support any kind of abundance or energetic flow?
Um, Sacred geometry is a portal. Think of it as a portal. So it bypasses the mind and speed directly to the energetic field. So even I think even just a few minutes of intentional coloring a day can recalibrate your nervous system and help you feel more grounded, more creative, and more be in the abundance flow. Alternatively, you can also try meditating. I would visualize a sacred geometric shape, one that's really that I use very like frequently. Is like a shape of a pyramid, kind of like a 3D triangle representing the element of fire and the power to manifest. So what you would do, you could sit in the middle of that pyramid and then let the pyramid energy ignite your intention. It's like reminding yourself that you are actually the alchemist and your focus energy is a flame that has the power to shape reality. So you have this innate ability to turn thoughts into reality, and then know that you are a powerful divine creator and you can create the life with the energy of your intention. Its fiery energy ignites your willpower and determination and empowering you to transform your intentions into actions. So you're really visualizing yourself like with that fiery energy, and then visualizing like the intentions you're sending out, and then the
Okay,
action.
so when you say pyramid, you're just talking about a basic triangle, right?
It's like a 3D, like a 3D triangle with a base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can visualize yourself sitting in the middle of it.
Well, thank you. That's such a powerful technique that you just shared with us that anybody can incorporate immediately and start to enjoy some of the benefits of what you just shared. And you also mentioned that energetic alignment, abundance, all of these are deeply interconnected. So, can you explain this connection and offer like one practical tip? So when somebody is feeling very disconnected from, because prosperity is your birthright, it's an easy belief to install. But when you're in that moment, it's simple to feel disconnected, right? So what is that one small practical tip that you would recommend to somebody so when they're feeling lost, how can they center themselves and get in the right mind to think along the right direction?
Yes, I would suggest to get our mind right. Like in spiritual psychology, like every day is a practice to get our mind right and to know the truth about abundance. And that's why I started the abundance truth movement, is to really anchor yourself back to the truth that abundance is simply a frequency. It doesn't start with your bank account. It actually starts with your being. So when you feel out of flow, which happens often, it usually means you've slipped into fear, lack, doubt, control, frequency. So one quick way to realign is to practice being the observer. Notice the story that's running through your mind without judging it, and then ask your divine self, who am I? What is my truth as a divine creator? And consciously choose to align to that truth. In that moment of awareness, you shift from reaction to creation, and that's energetic alignment. However, it's super, super important to not spiritually bypass anything that came up. So take a mental note and make a sacred promise to yourself that whether it's fear, doubt, anything that came up, tell yourself and make a secret promise that you will come back later and explore it deeply. And that's where the real clearing happens, is doing that inner work.
Yeah, no, that's thank you for sharing. That's such a powerful, simple technique is getting yourself into the observer field. And because anxiety is something that suddenly creeps out of nowhere and catches us off guard. And this is a great, powerful reminder how to center yourself. And I like how you touched on spiritual bypassing. It actually leads into my next question for you. Firstly, if you could break down to somebody who doesn't understand what is spiritual bypassing, and then move into what does spirituality mean to you, and how has that evolved your work that you're doing with sacred geometry and energetic healing?
Spiritually bypassing, it's my own experience, is simply force yourself to think positive and ignore, like, kind of like shuffle under the rugs any feelings that came up. So you're not really processing, you're not really doing the inner work to look deeper to see what's really happening at the root. And then it's kind of like a bandage, but then it will keep on the same struggle, the same fear, the same doubt, everything will keep on coming up. So that's spiritually bypassing. The definition of spirituality, to me, it means self-remembering. So it's really about the journey of coming home to the I am consciousness. It's knowing that we are all individualized expression of the source. We are divine creators, but at the same time, we are also connected to the whole.
Thank you, Chloe. That was so profound. What you just shared is going back to the truth of who you are and what you're here to do. That's a very, very powerful, thing that you just shared with us. And I really thank you for that. And spiritual bypassing is not something that people understand. And you simplified it so easily. And thank you for that as well. So the last question I want to touch on is truth. What is truth? Because you said the truth of I am, we're all living a relative expression of something that we're here to create in this lifetime for us to get to the next stage of the evolution. So, from your perspective, what is that truth that you hope to leave behind through all your works and teachings? Like, how do you want people to remember you with your impact in the lives and the businesses?
The truth I would love to leave behind, or it's during the day-to-day work with my clients, is really to remind everyone that they are the source of all abundance, that they are the source of all abundance they desire. So that's why I started the Abundance Truth Movement, which is centered around this piece that you are the source of all abundance. You are an infinite creator who can come up with infinite ways to create products or services of value. And when you reconnect with the truth of who you are, your voice, your value, your essence, your truth, everything else aligns. And that's a legacy I want to leave, remembering that abundance isn't something that you chase, it isn't something outside of you, it is something that you are.
Thank you, Chloe. That was a beautiful way to sum up this conversation. And it seems very simple, but there's a lot that you have to navigate to get to the truth that you have come to realize. And I think a lot of it has to do with someone working through every single trauma that they've come across in their lifetime, and clearing every single block intentionally and working with the right mentors that is able to hold a safe space for them to create, to bring them to a place of creation instead of being in a place of fear. And knowing that you are here to create and create a beautiful life, because life is exciting, and and instead of wallowing in the pain or the suffering, how can we release that and get to a place where we actually make a difference in the lives of the people that we touch and how we grow in the process, which, I think in our earlier conversation, you talked about how life is a master class. We're constantly mastering the lessons that we're here to learn, and which in your case was the abundance block that you had shared. And this is how you're mastering your lessons, by bringing yourself to a place of creation and helping people along the way. Right. Thank you, Chloe. If you enjoyed the conversation today, please feel free to subscribe to the channel at Radiate in a Harmony. And if you would like to get in touch with Chloe, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
I'm active on Instagram, and I also host monthly abundance workshops. And yeah, the best way would definitely be Instagram over DM. Send me a message. I'm always here to connect.
Thank you, Chloe. And also to folks listening to the conversation, please feel free to send me a DM if you'd like to recommend someone on the show, or if you'd love to share your own story on the podcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in again. Bye for now.